Welcome back, Heat Seekers. It's Wednesday night. We are going to be talking all sorts of redraft shenanigans with you. So hopefully wherever you are in the world, everything's going well. With that being said, as you can tell, I'm joined by my normal partners in crime, I guess I should say. We have Cody from Off the Schneid. How are you, my friend?
Fantastic. Another Cincinnati Bengals win. One they should have got, which is great. So we got a good test this weekend. Excited for it.
Yeah, and they could be down to Jair Alexander, so that's even better for you, right?
Kevin King, we'll see, but yeah.
You're getting lots of good plays off of him because he's terrible. Bryce, how are you, my friend? How is everything treating you?
I'm always good, Brad. Unfortunately, my team did not win, but it kind of was a moral victory, so that was good. We didn't get blown out. You also might have to go against Jalen Smith this week, so it looks like the Bengals really going to have a rough one against him.
Yeah, no Joe Mixon, and Jalen Smith should actually help that team. I actually do think that Jalen Smith will help that team, but no Joe Mixon, so we'll see.
Samaje Perine season, everybody, or Chris Evans. I guess it depends on if you like Captain America or if you like Perine. And it will be because I've seen two very distinctive camps, either on Twitter or on all the social platforms as they try to figure out who's the next man up. Samaje keeps getting the between the tackles work, but people expect it to kind of be a both. As we get to the weekend slate of games, obviously today we want to help you guys plan specifically for tomorrow and also talk about the weekends. It'll be interesting to get your guys' opinions on what Cincy will do with this backfield. But first we want to get to tomorrow night. So we've got the Rams and the Seahawks. We've got Chris Carson injury news, 2 days in a row of did not participate, neck injuries, things like that. What are you guys doing at the running back position if Chris Carson's down? Do you lean on an Alex Collins, Rashad Penny, whoever else you think is the guy, or do you just look at a different team, different position, someone else to start? So Bryce, I want to start with you. What do you do with this situation if you're a Carson owner?
If I'm a Carson owner and I'm able to avoid it by maybe putting in a guy that has some value on another team that typically wouldn't start in your lineup. But if I'm hard pressed because the running back situation in most leagues, is thin, just because it's thin in the league, so that's why it's thin for fantasy. I wouldn't feel bad putting in Alex Collins in my lineup. He only had 2 touches less than Chris Carson, I believe, this past week, and had more yards, so he was efficient on his limited amount of touches. It's just they are going against a tough Rams defense, and I expect this game to be a shootout. So I'm not sure if he's going to be utilized as a back out of the backfield. I would try and avoid it if I can, but I'd start Alex Collins if there's nothing better for me.
Cody,
I do think that, realistically, if you look throughout his career, Alex Collins has been pretty efficient every time he's gotten an opportunity. It's just a matter of getting that opportunity. And that I was thinking today, that's kind of indicative of the running back position right now, is a guy like Alex Collins can just step in for the Seahawks and potentially be 100-yard back this week. I don't particularly think that happens either. I'm with you on that, Bryce. And I think it'll be a mixture more of DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, kicking in as well. So yeah, I agree. If I can avoid Alex Collins, I will. If I can't, and you're in a pinch, you could do worse. So that's kind of where I'm at. If you can avoid it, go ahead and avoid it. If you just can't, and you had to pay all the fab for him type of a thing, then it is what it is, and you don't particularly have a choice, I'd imagine. What's your take there, Brad, on that?
Yeah, I wrestle with this because not only the competition they're facing this week, the Rams are a good defense. They do a good job against the run. You can run on them, so it's not like it's impossible, but it's just not the greatest matchup. So my first take, it would be look elsewhere if you can. If you have to start somebody else or go spend money to get somebody else because you need the running back help, you have to lean Alex Collins because the guy's probably available. I can't imagine he was rostered very much. I'd have to pull up, the different platforms, but I can't imagine he was heavily rostered up until, now. DJ Dallas hasn't really been super exciting. Travis, Homer, both of those guys are kind of niche type plays in this offense, the way that they've used them in the past, at least. So it feels like it's Alex Collins and they're going to sprinkle others in. Like Alex Collins, I can't imagine has every touch, and every pass reception from the backfield. So the value's there because it's a Russell Wilson-led offense. He'll move the ball around and do a good job, but I would be a little nervous starting any of these guys. If I had a better option, I'd go that way. probably don't have a better option at this point because of all the injuries that we've seen. But, that would be what I would encourage somebody to do, is look elsewhere. Maybe you can get lucky and pick up like a Samaje Perine. I joked about it, but, his matchup I like better against Green Bay than I do a guy like Alex Collins against the Rams, because I know what Cincy's going to do with Perine, as opposed to I don't know exactly how Seattle's going to use these guys.
So I was going to ask, would either of you, would you rather Samaje Perine or Alex Collins this week? Obviously just this week. Yeah,
for me this week, it would be Perine, but I don't know that either matchup's amazing, but I think Perine gets you a better fantasy output, mostly because I kind of know what to expect out of him, which feels gross because I was never a Perine guy when he came out in Washington. Thought it was a terrible draft pick, and it obviously so far didn't work out well. Bryce?
I'd go Perine as well, but, another good one I think is, in redraft, this guy's probably available. Would you go Brandon Bolden over Alex Collins?
PPR value for sure. If it's a PPR league.
We were wrong last week, Bryce.
I said I thought JJ Taylor fumbled right away. Yeah. So he didn't get an opportunity. And I think they were going to make him the guy. I think we were on the right track. He just soiled it, literally, for the SpongeBob episode, right? So I think it's going to be Brandon Bolden this upcoming week. They do play against Houston, so they might be, I think it's going to be Damian Harris, a lot of rushing, but any passing down, they take him out and they put in Brandon Bolden at this point. So I think I would feel more comfortable starting like Brandon Bolden over Alex Collins.
At the same time, with the Patriots, would you be shocked if all of a sudden Ramondre Stevenson was the guy?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. There must be something that we are unaware of, because he wasn't even active, right? He hasn't even been activated. So I wouldn't be shocked, of course, but I feel like if they activated Ramondre Stevenson, he would cut more into Damian Harris's role. I know he can catch the ball out of the backfield, but it just seems like they trust Brandon Bolden more. And I feel like in passing situations, they put a guy out there that they trust more than a guy that's talented.
So let's flip it back to you, Cody, because it's your team is the Bengals. Right now, if you look at like PFF and things like that, Evans grades out as the better receiver. Perine grades out as the better runner. Do you think that they split it up? I posted Craig's comment. He thinks Evans is a better play this week than Perine. Do you think there's PPR value and things like that for a guy like Evans where it makes him more valuable than Perine?
I do, and I agree with that, but it's going to be entirely game script. Like, it's really going to depend on how the game is going for the Bengals. If they're within reach, they're going to run the ball, to their comfortability level, which is relatively high. If it's a close enough game, he should get 15 carries. If it's not, then Chris Evans is going to be in there a bunch more. So, it's really risky either way. I do like Chris Evans more as an all-around back. To be honest, I would rather see the Bengals just start Chris Evans and use him as a running back. And obviously he catches the ball a ton better out of the backfield. You can move him out into the slot, a wide, whatever. He can do the majority of things that wide receivers can do. Obviously not quite as good as majority of wide receivers in the NFL level, but he can do those things. And, he is a running back. So I would personally, as a Bengals fan, I would rather just see them start Chris Evans and, use him as a traditional running back and then split him out when you need to. And if they fall behind in the game, then, you have the right guy in the ball game, and he's been, kind of rolling throughout the game. So yeah, to be honest, I would avoid Samaje Perine, starting him as well, because if that game starts to get away from the Bengals, which it absolutely could with Aaron Rodgers, the way he's rolling, especially right now, even at home, then Chris Evans probably is the better play. But realistically, it's hard to see a ceiling or floor for either guy, if I'm being honest. The higher floor is probably Perine, I guess. The higher ceiling is probably Evans, but it's extremely risky to, I wouldn't feel comfortable putting a number on either of their fantasy production this week. So that's kind of my take on it.
So Brandon Bolden, then.
That's what I would do. I think you know what you're getting.
Because you're comfortable with that.
Same thing there. That's going to be game script dependent too, because they could just run the ball 35 times with, not obviously all with Damian Harris, but Damian Harris might touch the ball 25 to 30 times with a couple catches sprinkled in there.
They're facing Houston, and Houston decided to send one of the only receivers they had left out, and dropping Anthony Miller. So they could lean on the run game, and that spells. I guess there's still a little value for Bolden, but I can't imagine them running him. He's more of a pass catcher, period. So,
Yes, and like I said before with the Patriots, you never know. They might just activate Ramondre Stevenson, run him 20 times randomly out of nowhere. And would anybody be shocked with that?
No. I was at the Jonas Gray football game. So
Yeah.
4 touchdowns and we never saw him again. So
yeah, like that could happen any week with the Patriots. So
right.
I mean, I wouldn't feel super comfortable with Brandon Bolden either. That's for sure. To be honest, of the three, I guess the highest floor, Alex Collins.
It feels so weird as we talk through this that it then comes back to Alex Collins, who, he shot himself in the foot in most of his situations, had trouble, ran into some issues and bounced around. He's still young enough to put up some value in this offense if he has to play for any significant amount of time. So I don't hate if now that we've kind of circularly walked back to this point in the conversation, I don't hate it if you go Alex Collins, if you can get him. I just don't know, for any of these guys, I struggle with what is the actual ceiling on these guys. I want more PPR action, but you can't trust some of the main PPR options, Chris Evans and Bolden in this conversation, so again, it leads me back to, if you have a better option, play it. If not, then these guys all have, we can build the story in such a way that they all have value in some way, shape, or form if this situation turns out. Damian Harris has value if they run a bunch. Bolden has value if they get some PPR involved. Evans, same insert P. Ryan and Evans, same thing. Alex Collins is going to get a lot of runs. It's interesting, and it makes it for a tough situation this week for owners because we're still not entirely sure, but we're pretty sure Carson's not going to play, but they're the Thursday night game. So if you put Collins in and it doesn't go the way, you're stuck now. You're boned. So
at least and then you can make some changes on Sunday type of a thing and take a shot on a guy that, has a super high ceiling type of thing. You can take that shot. So
right.
Yeah, for sure. So as we move on to the Sunday slate of games and even Mondays, Colts, Ravens, is there something Sunday during the day that intrigues you? So in my mind, it was, we're getting ready for week 5. Are there plays in here that you guys are already starting to think about might be smart ones for people to do? We have some interesting games. We got a London game between the Jets and the Falcons. Both looked pretty good last week. Jets got the first win, Falcons didn't, but both the offenses are moving the ball a little bit better. And what are you guys thinking about? And for the chat, keep throwing these comments in there at 10 o'clock. We'll get to answering all them questions. We spend a good portion of the show doing that. We thank you guys for bearing with us as we get through the main topic. Bryce, about this weekend, what excites you? Is there anybody that you think is kind of a sneaky sleeper that could get you some super high production?
I don't necessarily have a sleeper, but I have some people, especially in redraft formats, that you might have on your bench or might have worked their way to your bench based on how they started the season that can produce this week. You mentioned the Falcons game in London. I think Mike Davis is a good play this week. The Falcons should be winning this game. I guess every team that plays the Jets should be winning their game. And Mike Davis is by far their best runner. Cordarrelle Patterson's probably the best athlete every single time he walks on the field. He can do it all. He's huge. He's fast. He's strong. He can catch. But Mike Davis is a great running back. And if you actually watch the games, he always makes people miss. He's always looking for, yards after contact. And I think today or this upcoming week, I believe it's 9:30 Eastern time Sunday morning. He should be able to have his first real game that we were seeing from him last year when he stepped in for Christian McCaffrey. A couple of other people that I like to mention, Waddle and Parker are both good plays this week against Tampa Bay. Again, they should be losing that game. And Brissett seemed to trust Parker a lot, was giving him a lot of jump balls, and he was catching all of them. And Waddle should be that guy that he looks to underneath when teams start focusing Parker. Those are some guys I have on the list. Cody?
What about you, Cody?
Yeah, the Dolphins pass catchers were definitely on my list as well. I got pretty much all of them, including obviously Mike Gesicki. They are not able to run the ball, especially against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If they can't run the ball against any other team in the NFL, they're not going to be able to run the ball against the best team against the run. So they're going to have to air it out. And I definitely like Waddle and Parker as well. All three of those guys are definitely plays for me. I do have a few sleepers that I'm really interested this week. I think Leonard Fournette against the Miami Dolphins, that game in particular is there's going to be a lot of value there. I think he's someone that is absolutely kind of a must start at this point. Like I said, last week or the week before, that offense just seems to run more smoothly with Fournette in the game. He had 20 carries last week, and Miami's run defense has been terrible this year. So I definitely like Fournette there. I like almost anybody on the Jets. I think that's going to be a really interesting game. It's going to be tough for me to get up for that one. I think it's at like 7:30 or something like that. Yeah, but I'll be out watching it. But either way, Zach Wilson got his first win at the best game of his career so far. Corey Davis, I think, is in a great spot. And Michael Carter, who, when I came on the show in the summer there, I was saying he's a guy that I think is just going to take over this backfield, whether anybody likes it or not. He's just going to do that. He's just a talented running back who just has that work ethic and kind of mindset that, he's just going to put himself in a position where you can't take him out of the game. And I think that's where he's at right now. So I like Michael Carter. Josh Reynolds of the Titans is a guy that I would definitely be taking a look at. AJ Brown practiced in a limited capacity today, but honestly, I'm not sure he plays. Julio Jones sat out, but beyond that, Nick Westbrook, Akeen, and Racey McMath both did not practice today either. So I definitely, regardless of pretty much anything, unless the entire practice schedule changes for the Titans, I like Josh Reynolds. He definitely was the guy last week. He had 9 targets, 6 catches, 60 yards, something like that.
Yeah, him and McNichols.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, him and McNichols are really good plays there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely like Josh Reynolds there. And tomorrow night, potentially Robert Woods' proper breakout game. We'll see.
How many weeks in a row are we going to say, man, this guy's due?
Hey, he had like 46 and a touchdown last week. So, a proper breakout, proper breakout, but we'll see. Yeah, I have been saying that a few weeks in a row here, but
I mean, you're not alone. We've all been saying that.
Yeah, true. And McVay did say that he's going to make an effort to get him the ball more. So we'll take that with a grain of salt.
It's usually pretty good.
Well, and and the Rams are in an interesting spot because they just got shellacked when everybody kind of was thinking they were the class in the NFC West. So they're really going to be out looking to try to do something to kind of make a statement. And I'm not going to say this is a statement type game for them in the sense that the Seahawks are kind of what they've been for the last few years. Not great on defense. Offense is what carries them and really keeps them in games. They match up well against the Rams, though. The things that Russell Wilson does well, the Rams do okay. Him targeting the middle of the field and doing some deep stuff. Jalen Ramsey would be the big concern. Other than that, he can attack the middle of the field and get over those linemen, get to that second level. So it'll be a fun one to watch. But the Rams are out looking to prove to people that they weren't just a sham. But when you look at PFF and you look at the grades, I mean, this team is just so good. But then you see Robert Woods, he's still grading out pretty well, all things considered. He's just not got the fantasy production. So it's a tough situation. I think, and we talked about it on last night's show, if you're a Cooper Kupp owner, you love what's going on, but also at what point does it start to level out because Kupp's been such the focus and Woods really hasn't. So that being said, this weekend's games, when I think about it, I had the same thought as you. Tennessee Titans pass catchers if everybody's hurt. McNichols, Josh Reynolds, both got a lot of work. I mean, Derrick Henry's going to get what Derrick Henry gets, but McNichols got a ton of targets out of the backfield, and I think he could get that again. And this is one of those games where after what happened to the Jets, I don't know. I can't say that I'm 100% certain Tennessee wins or doesn't win, but I can say for certain that with all these pass catchers hurt, those two are playable options. I would steer clear of a lot of the Browns this week, outside of the main two, Chubb and Hunt. Like those are the only two I'm pretty sure will get good fantasy production. But right now with their receiving game and the passing game is just such a weird dynamic. Like I've had a lot of people message me this week about what to do with OBJ or Austin Hooper or, and some of these guys. I'm like, if you have better options, I would play him, because as good as OBJ is, he's just not on the same page with Baker very often. And I don't even know what to make of that receiving game. DPJ makes great sideline catches every so often, and then otherwise they don't target him. So, for me, week 5, start all your Vikings, because Detroit is down another pass rusher and the defense is not getting any better. I really hope they went after Jalen Smith, but obviously that's not happening. Sounds like he is signing with Green Bay. Start all your Jets. And I wouldn't be afraid to start Lions. Fire up your Quintez Cephas and Khalif Raymond shares, because those guys are getting targeted. And though the Vikings defense is getting better, it's still not great. When it gets to the Monday slate, we got Colts Ravens. Are you guys, the records are flip-flopped, but Baltimore hasn't looked great. I mean, they've gotten some ugly wins. Are you feeling like any of these guys in the Monday game, outside of, the major players, Lamar, Jonathan Taylor? I mean, is there anyone on Monday night that you're feeling comfortable about trying to start? Are you on the Marquis Brown bandwagon, thinking he's playable? Obviously Mark Andrews. Anything else? Bryce?
Yeah, I am on the Marquis Brown bandwagon. I think he's talented. I'm probably starting Pittman Jr. I would just like, I have no problem starting, people over him or whatever, but on that slate, other than, the Jonathan Taylor, the Lamar, you probably starting Mark Andrews, Marquis Brown, Pittman Jr. are probably the only two I really, really feel comfortable starting outside of those guys. I don't want any part of the, Colts tight end situation, or even I don't want their quarterback. So yeah, those are probably the only two. Pittman Jr. is getting peppered. He gets a lot of targets. They're clear cut number one. I think even when T.Y. Hilton comes back, it's the Michael Pittman Jr. show. T.Y. hopefully takes some pressure off of him, but those are my two. Cody?
Yeah, I would love it if people would start putting a little bit of respect on Hollywood Brown's name. I think he's way better than people are giving him credit for. I think I saw something the other day or today that he was that one touchdown drop away from being like wide receiver 6 so far for the year. And whatever happened to the narrative of third-year wide receivers? Like, I know that things have changed a little bit in the NFL and guys are coming out, rookies and second-year guys and all that, but it used to be like this massive, massive narrative in the fantasy football world where third-year wide receivers, and I don't think that just dies. Like, people are looking at third-year guys as busts if they're not Pro Bowlers by their third year, which is insane to me. And what year is Marquis Brown in? His third year. So, he's battled through some hamstring stuff and he's looked great while doing it. So I would love if people would start putting some respect on Hollywood Brown's name. I'm a big, big fan of him personally. And I absolutely start him without question, unless I have amazingly better options this week. I definitely like Jonathan Taylor as well. This Ravens defense against the run, especially when I made my Ravens, episode, that was a big concern for me because the middle of the defensive line is getting older. They do have very good linebackers. Obviously, Patrick Queen is fantastic, but they just haven't looked great this year. So I absolutely fire up Jonathan Taylor. And then, Pittman is probably another start for me as well. But yeah, sorry, I had to go on a little rant there for Hollywood Brown. We need some respect on that guy.
Well, and I think the thing that really drags him down is the Lamar Jackson effect, right? Like, people still paint the picture that Lamar's not a great passer, but when you look at how they've continued to develop, they both are grading out top 10 at their position group. They're both doing very well. Yes, they're not always in sync. There's some situations where Lamar's still, ducking the ball and maybe giving a little too much to it, but they're both growing and improving. So yeah, I'm not saying I'm like the biggest Marquis Brown fan, but I definitely think he's one of those guys that people don't put enough on, and you really should be able to target. I mean, I know this is a redraft show, but in Dynasty, if you're looking for receiver help, I would target him because I see him get moved all the time. So don't be afraid to go after a guy like Marquis Brown, because he is getting a good amount of action and he's a deep ball threat, and and he can overcome Lamar Jackson not being perfect, but being just good.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with that Ravens, and we talked about it, I think last week, is obviously the running game. It's extremely obvious that they're hurting without J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards. It's a problem, and until either Latavius Murray becomes that guy. But honestly, I think the biggest problem is not just Greg Roman. I don't like Greg Roman, but that's another time for another day. Their offensive line is in a bad spot. It's in a really bad spot right now with losing Orlando Brown. Ronnie Stanley hasn't been completely healthy. So I'm probably avoiding, Ravens running backs until I see something tangible, unless Le'Veon Bell comes out of nowhere and just, becomes that guy. I do like Latavius Murray, but he just hasn't looked great. And I think a big problem is the offensive line. So it's no secret what the issue is in Baltimore, in my opinion. I think it's extremely obvious. So I just think that, again, that's another reason to like Hollywood Brown. They're going to have to throw the ball more than they ever have. So he's going to be a beneficiary of it. And what did we say a few weeks ago about Brandon Cooks? He's one play away from being a startable fantasy asset at any time.
Right. Absolutely. And it's an interesting situation to keep an eye on, especially as the season goes on, because that running back situation is going to continue to flip-flop because, like you said, Murray just is not great. He's serviceable, and he's certainly fine to be part of a committee, but he's not a lead back at this point in his career. All right, so that's week 5 in a nutshell, but I will tell you guys, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification icon, because Sunday morning, Bryce goes live with Rick and insert guest, sometimes Sully, sometimes whomever. They do Boomer Bust Live, so they talk, get your questions answered, get your start sit stuff going. We obviously are helping you when you ask, because we're about to do Q&A, but it's Wednesday night, so there's still quite a few days until Sunday. So definitely stop back in Sunday morning as well and get those questions answered. With that being said, we are going to go to questions. And Bryce, we're going to start with you on this one. Joey over on YouTube says, I need 2 wide receivers. So this is a start sit type thing. Which 2 wide receivers you start this week? Robert Woods, Tyler Boyd, Marvin Jones, Cortland Sutton, Laviska Shenault.
This is a good one. I'm probably starting Robert Woods tomorrow night for sure. Is T. Higgins practicing again?
Yeah. He's probably playing.
Okay. This might be crazy, but I just have a feeling I've been on this guy all off season. I'm going to probably go Robert Woods and Laviska Shenault. We saw when Marvin DJ Chark went down in that game, Laviska's volume just went up. His role seemed to change. Like, he was working way more downfield. He was getting deep passes. Like, usually he was just getting quick screens and slants. His route tree expanded as soon as DJ Chark Jr. went down. I really like both of those. I really like Laviska Shenault for his floor, and I really think that Marvin Jones Jr. and Robert Woods have the highest floor or ceiling. I'm going to lean Robert Woods a little bit. I mean, he's due, and we've been saying it for weeks now, and tomorrow night has to be the game for him. Cody?
Yeah, I'm still habitually avoiding Cortland Sutton. Sorry, Brad, but
yeah,
I'm avoiding Cortland Sutton. Tim Patrick's my guy. I've been saying it this whole time in that offense. But I actually like Shenault for his ceiling, not his
really?
floor. And you're right. I absolutely agree. I actually had him written down as not a sleeper, but a guy for this week.
I did too.
And I had Laviska season written down, because I think this is going to be a bit of a breakout game for him. Oddly enough, in a vacuum, you'd say Marvin Jones should be that guy, no? But I'm with you. I'm thinking Shenault's going to be the guy, and Robert Woods, I gotta stick with him. With T. Higgins coming back, Boyd falls down a little bit. Cortland Sutton, I'm personally just not behind Cortland Sutton too much. He's matchup dependent, and I don't particularly think this is the greatest matchup. But yeah, I think both of your ceiling plays are Shenault and Woods, and they might be your highest floor play as well. So that's who I go
for sure.
What do you think, Brad?
I think
Cortland Sutton.
You need to put some respect on Cortland Sutton's name. No, I wouldn't, because Drew Lock is probably starting. I don't trust it. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, I felt better about, but even that, he's one of those guys that'll go down having some of the worst quarterback play in his career. I mean, it's very Allen Robinson-esque in my mind, the way that Cortland Sutton's been. He's extremely talented, has crappy quarterback play at best. He's getting targeted. I mean, it was like week 2, I think, where he got like double-digit targets. It was like 10 or 11 targets or something. And then last week, I think he got close to 10. I think it was like 7 or 8 targets. But he's just not on the same page as his quarterback. So I wouldn't. I would probably lean Woods and Jones just because those are the safest plays. I think Laviska could get you the highest ceiling. At the end of this weekend, if you told me Laviska outpointed all these guys, I wouldn't be surprised because of PPR. Right. Yeah. They will get him a lot of little plays where he's within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage and the dump of the ball to him, letting him make things happen. But against the team, I think what are they, Tennessee this week? I think they face. Yeah, it's Tennessee. So fire up your Jacksonville shares because that defense is just awful. I would not start both wide receivers, but I would start Marvin and Wood just because I think Trevor's going to look at Marvin as the safe play because he knows what he's getting with him and he trusts him. But I think Laviska, in theory, could get you the highest ceiling of all of them. So if you started him, I wouldn't hate that either. Robert Woods, I'll keep starting and he'll keep burning me, but guy's the best receiver. I mean, like he's so good and been so ignored, and now even Matt Stafford's ignoring him. So we'll see. All right. So Slim 74, we bumping you to the top of the line because boy, you jumped in there in the super chat. Welcome, Slim 74. Thank you for the $5 super chat. What's up, guys? Does the Meyer locker room scare you with Jacksonville players? Gallman interest for Beat the Wire. So the Urban Meyer situation's a bit of a pokey situation. Very pokey situation we got ourselves into with Urban Meyer. I think, Urban's got to earn the trust back, but Urban isn't on the field playing, right? Like these guys are still going to go out and play because this is their job and they are doing it. So no, that doesn't scare me, but what it does do is it tells me that Urban needs to earn trust back. I mean, he made a bad decision. And if you've watched like McAfee's show, he had on, I've watched McAfee's show a couple times, and he had on Chuck Pagano, and Chuck Pagano was like, dude, I've never heard of that. And he's been a head coach in the NFL for decades. I've never heard of a head coach not going with his team and staying. He's like, obviously, I don't know the reasons and whatnot. Never in history have I ever heard of that. And nobody has that I've heard of. He had on Michael Lombardi, former GM of your Patriots. And he said the same thing. He's like, that just doesn't happen. So Jacksonville may be a bit dysfunctional in the coaching in the front office, but Darrell Bevel, the defensive staff, like those guys are not dysfunctional. They are going to get the guys ready to go because ultimately the head coach during the game, from everything I've heard and understand, basically manages the clock and does some of those things. So these guys will be ready to play, right? Bryce, what do you think?
I don't think Urban Meyer will be the coach much longer. I didn't like the hire. I think that he is a really, really good recruiter, and he can find really good athletes in high school. And that obviously leads to success in college football. But I just never liked his, the way he called plays at Ohio State. And, he got into Jacksonville and started off on a horrible foot by, getting Tim Tebow in there at tight end. Like he was playing favorites as soon as he got there. I don't think he's got any sort of hold on that locker room. Obviously, he's got the scandal at the bar in Columbus that brought his name more into light. It won't surprise me if he's one of those coaches that steps down or gets forced out before the season ends, or within the next 2 weeks. And the second part, Gallman interest, not really. I think they just added him more for depth on that team because, they only had 2 running backs on the depth chart, if I remember correctly. They might have had a third guy, but nobody probably knew who he was. But it's Cordarrelle Patterson, who's just pretty much a flex option in real life, and then Mike Davis. So I think they have to somewhat get a guy in there. And Gallman's produced every time that he's given the opportunity when running backs go down. So I don't have really much interest unless somebody goes down.
Yeah, I'll start with the second part of that, the Gallman interest. I do like Gallman, exactly like you said. If someone goes down, I'm absolutely all over Gallman. If either of those guys go down, I'm 100% on Gallman. And he got, I think, a few carries, like 5 or so in his first active game there, something like that. So,
I believe so.
he might have a role in some blowout type games, but if someone goes down, absolutely, I'll target Gallman.
Yeah.
If you have a super deep bench and you have the room, it's not a terrible play. Or, if you have a guy go down on Sunday, doesn't play, you put him on your IR, you can throw a guy, and just in case an injury happens, Gallman's a guy that I would do that with and try to beat the rush. I like to do that all the time. A little bit of, advice there. If I got a guy goes down on Sunday, throw him on my IR, grab a guy like Gallman just in case there's an injury. If not, drop Gallman. Boom, no problem. Now, the Urban Meyer stuff, I agree with all the stuff you said. I saw the McAfee show as well. It was pretty hilarious. And Urban Meyer is just he's lucky that this team is so young. I think if it wasn't, he would already have been let go, I think.
So.
And realistically, he could have handled this a lot better than he did. It's never going to look good, but I think as far as the way he could have saved face with his team and potentially kept that locker room together, he could have handled it better. From my understanding, he just went to all the position, players and meetings individually and had some ridiculous apology that everybody was burst out and laughing as soon as he left the room, is what I heard. So, he could have handled it better. But I agree. I don't think he finishes the season, as a head coach. I think he should go back to college. I don't think he ever should have left college. And I think if this was an older, more veteran team, he already would have been pushed out. So sure. But like you said, I play potentially Trevor Lawrence, Chenault, Marvin Jones, J-Rob. Like Bevel is a very good coach. He probably is the head coach of that team before the season's over.
For sure.
So I play those guys, those offensive players. Yeah, why not? And they got a good matchup. So they're professionals. Like you said, they're going to play football. So
absolutely. Yeah. All right. So thank you, Slim. As always, we do appreciate the support, my friend. Breck over on YouTube. Woods, Waddle, or Hollywood? Obviously, we know Cody's choice.
Cody's answer.
I love all those guys, actually. Yeah, I love
I do too, guys. Yeah.
So,
but which one would you pick?
If I had to pick one, I'm probably going Woods or Waddle. I'm actually probably going with either of those guys over Hollywood Brown. I'll say that just because of the matchups, just because of the game script. I think Baltimore can be, it's going to be a closer game, I think, with the Colts than the Seahawks and Rams / Miami coming back against the Buccaneers. So that's why I go with either of those guys. I probably go with Robert Woods in this situation, if I'm being honest. So what do you think, Bryce?
I love Waddle. I want to say him, but I think I have to go with Hollywood Brown personally. It's close between him and Woods, but Hollywood Brown is really yet to really let me down this year. I say that and I don't even own him in any leagues, but I've been watching him a lot. That's like one of those players
he's definitely not letting you down if he's not playing.
I own him a bunch actually, and I start him every week. So
yeah, it's one of those players I admire that I don't have. Like I just like watching. The Ravens are fun to watch. They're big play. Lamar's cool to watch, and I just like how Hollywood Brown plays. Lamar looks for him all the time. I think his ceiling obviously is way higher than. I think it's way higher than both of these guys, and I think his floor is not much lower. If anything, I would almost lean Waddle for floor, but I'm going to go with Hollywood Brown overall.
Yeah.
Brad?
I would lean Hollywood Brown, and I question Cody because you need to put some respect.
On his name.
You really
back to bite me already, eh?
Yeah, right. You can't go wrong with any of these guys, but yeah, this week I would lean Hollywood for sure. I want Woods to be the man and to get where he should be, but it's just like if I have these three, I'm just going to lean with what I know has been working so far this year, and then when Woods, when it bites me and Hollywood has a stinker of a game and Woods puts up, then I go, okay, well there it is. I expected it at some point.
Yeah.
All right, Michael Chap wants to know. He just got Hollywood, so there we go. He just got Hollywood and Zach Moss. I'm assuming it's for Gordon and Sutton. Did I win this trade? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think you got the better wide receiver and the better running back in this situation.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's Melvin.
Yeah, I figured it was Melvin
Yeah.
Gordon. I can't imagine it being Josh Gordon. If somebody's trading,
and he didn't practice today, actually, Melvin Gordon. So
no. All right, so
your boy will break out.
Right.
Finally.
Sure.
Been waiting.
Tyler over on YouTube. Do you think Cooper Kupp could be Offensive Player of the Year?
Probably not. It's going to be a quarterback, whether it's Kyler Murray or Tom Brady or Matt Stafford, or I think Matt Stafford get it before Cooper Kupp.
Unless Cooper Kupp has like 20 plus touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's got to astronomically produce.
Yeah, it's just unlikely with quarterbacks.
Yeah. All right, so Anthony over on YouTube. Hey guys, in a tough spot. Who should I start PPR if Carson sits? This is the conversation we had earlier. Alex Collins or Chuba Hubbard, Latavius Murray or Carter. Gibson is my other starter. Also, would you put any of these guys in flex over Antonio Brown? No, because aren't they facing Miami, right?
Miami,
I'm not putting.
Yeah, no, I'm leaving AB in.
Yeah.
I'm probably leaning Michael Carter because CMC's been practicing, and Michael Carter looks like he's finally taken over that backfield and got touchdown this last week, and is getting heavily involved and going against Atlanta but Latavius Murray probably scores the most points, and that makes me look dumb. What do you think, Bryce?
If Christian McCaffrey, for some reason, I could see the Panthers, even if he's practicing this week and he's not 110%, I could see him sitting him. I mean, we saw it last year, right? He came back after a long injury and got hurt the same game, like the first game he came back at the very end. So if Christian McCaffrey's out, I'm probably putting Hubbard in for sure. But if not, I agree with you, Brad. I'm going with Michael Carter. I think we're all on the same page in the sense of we had liked him coming into the season. We just kind of didn't know when it was going to be him, but he's obviously on the field when it matters most. I guess the only concern I have for him for some reason is when they got in short yardage situations in like overtime or at the end of the game, not necessarily near the end zone, they ended up putting in Coleman. I guess that would be my only concern is he could potentially vulture touchdowns, but I think it's easily Carter if Christian McCaffrey plays here.
Yeah,
Cody?
I agree with that. I really, as somebody that just traded for Christian McCaffrey, I really hope they don't play him. Just let him sit for one more game. You're not in a bad spot. You just traded for one of the better defensive players in the game. Sorry, Bryce. So just sit him, let him get fully healthy, and play Hubbard against a team that you should beat even with Hubbard. I don't think they need Christian McCaffrey to beat the Eagles. I really don't. So then I probably go with Hubbard, and if not Carter, I'm in the same boat as you, Bryce, on that one.
All right, there you go. So good luck with that, Anthony. Hopefully that helped. The Days Full over on YouTube asks Corey Davis, Cordarrelle Patterson, or Debo at flex.
I'm not sitting Debo and I've been saying to sell high on him for a bit, but I'm not sitting Debo Samuel ever. Right now.
I would. The way that offense is running nearly through him right now because of the running back issues, I think you have to play Debo, but I wouldn't blame you if you put in Patterson because he's leading the team in fantasy production right now, and that's hilarious in and of itself. Bryce, what are you doing?
Man, I really want to say Corey Davis, but I think I agree with you, Cody. Debo Samuel has just been a force this year. If you want floor, I definitely would easily say Cordarrelle Patterson. So you like your matchup against your opponent, and you're like, you know what? I just want this position to get me 10 points. Cordarrelle Patterson's the guy that's 100% probably going to give you 10 points. But if you want a guy that's, got that 25-point potential as well, I think Debo gives you the best option for that. I mean, all these guys are great, but I think Debo has the edge for sure.
Yeah, they're all good matchups, but I don't think I wouldn't put, maybe I wouldn't put Cordarrelle Patterson there either at this point, but I wouldn't put Debo as a flex option. He's a wide receiver, minimum 2 right now.
Yeah.
So
there you go. All right. Slim back in with the $5 super chat. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Does my dynasty RBs, Chris Evans, have a legitimate shot to get some valuable work with for Mixon? He's the same type of back. Thanks. This is another one we had a conversation about earlier. We definitely think Evans could get heavily involved in the pass reception side of things. Samaje is going to be involved as well, though, on the running game because they use him now as that when he got hurt. So, Cody, do you want to add anything to that? Is there anything else that you think that Slim needs to know about the situation?
Yeah, as a realistic Bengals fan, they're probably going to be trying to come back in this game a little bit. It's going to be a bit of a shootout. They're going to have to put up points. And outside of goal line carries, I think Chris Evans gives them a better option to move the ball downfield and run their offense kind of, in a smoother fashion than Samaje Perine. So I do like Chris Evans. I'm not so sure I would start him unless I'm in an extreme pinch. Then I guess you got to do what you got to do. I would look other, like we talked before, I would look at other options. But if I'm being on, and this could just be my heart, right? This, as a Bengals fan, this could be my heart talking. But I like Chris Evans over Perine. I agree with Craig earlier. I definitely like Chris Evans over Perine, and I hope that they use him as their running back come Sunday. I'm just not so sure they do. So if you have other options, take a look somewhere else. If you're in a pinch, you could do worse than starting Chris Evans, I suppose.
Very true. All right. So thank you, Slim. As always, we appreciate it. Oh, we got another Slim. Slim Bay. I don't know. Slim
Bacon
Bay.
and eggs.
Bacon and eggs. I like it. All right. My tight end Gronk is out. Who should I pick up? Knox or Schultz? Schultz. Bryce?
Yeah. Pretty. I mean, Knox is really good in the red zone, but Schultz is getting the ball everywhere in red zone. He's got great rack ability. I'm going with Schultz here.
Cody?
That's really close this week. Hopefully you started Schultz the other week when we were talking about it, Brad, but that's really close. Nice. I think you could go either way and not be upset. This is another one where I think they could finish within 5 fantasy points of each other. Both could be relative shootouts. So I actually might go with Dawson Knox, to be honest with you. I think I go that route and take a bit of a potential higher ceiling. He's not, I do think Dalton Schultz is the better tight end in that offense over Jarwin for sure, but there is no Blake Jarwin in Buffalo. So I'm probably going with Dawson Knox.
All right, so there you go. 2 for Schultz, 1 for Knox. Good luck with that, Slim. Andrews, hey, buddy. Welcome back. Pick one. Half-point PPR, Sutton, Brandon Cooks, Michael Pittman. Cody.
I'm probably going with Michael Pittman in that one. I just can't do we've been talking nonstop about Brandon Cooks, but this is a tough matchup this week when he's literally the only person that can do anything on that offense. So I'm going to have to sit Brandon Cooks this week, and I've been fading Sutton habitually, so I'm going to go with Michael Pittman against a weak Ravens defense.
I agree. I was, we talk about the players we like and dislike for this week, and Brandon Cooks was top of my list. I really like, it's hard benching him because he's just been so reliable throughout his career, but New England's just shown time and time again. I mean, I've watched him literally every week for forever. They take away the number one target almost all the time. And I just would much rather go with Pittman Jr. here, who I know has got a much higher floor than Cooks in this game. And his ceiling is probably similar. I mean, Cooks might have a good game, but he's just going to be the only person they focus on that entire team. I just can't imagine that they don't double team him and put the best, JC Jackson on him. So yeah, Michael Pittman Jr. I agree. Brad.
Same here. All right. LJ Steves from over on YouTube. Welcome, my friend. I'm 1-3 in a 10-man full PPR. Brady, Zeke, CH, Diggs, Jefferson, Knox, Odell, bench, Jacoby, AB, Montgomery, Chase, Gronk. What move should I make?
That's a loaded question.
That's a good team, though. Like, you really shouldn't be 1-3, but I think you need to move Odell out and put Jacoby in. And sure. I think
that's crazy to say, isn't it?
If you can, no.
Jacoby's getting just crazy amount of targets right now, though. I mean, if it's full
and
PPR,
he's throwing the ball. He's throwing the ball as well.
Right.
Since you're 1-3, I would probably trade David Montgomery. You trade him to a contender, someone who's 3-1, 4-0, whatever it is. Trade him to a contender and get yourself a couple more, a couple guys. Who? Off the top of my head, I don't know. A package. You definitely want a package, I think, for probably David Montgomery. That's probably what I would do, being 1-3 with an injured player. You need to win now, kind of thing.
Yeah, in my mind, this starting lineup, I want to improve Dawson Knox and I want to improve Brady. Right? Like those are the two pieces.
Gronk. He's got Gronk, but he's only out for I don't know how many other weeks, but
Yeah, with broken ribs, it takes a little time to get back. But,
Right.
those are the two positions I want to improve. So I would look, if you're trading a Montgomery or somebody like that, try to get something that gets you a better tight end option that is, top 7 tight end and a better quarterback play. Brady's good, but if you're trying to really claw your way back from a 1-3 hole, I mean, you got to go big and
package Montgomery and Brady for another quarterback like Daniel Jones and Robert Woods, and you know what I mean. It's hard to like say what you should go after. Obviously, we don't know what other teams are. I think you should go after a package. I'll say that. Maybe Montgomery and Brady for a quarterback and two roster players.
Yeah, I'd be looking to get maybe Jalen Hurts. A lot of people probably drafted him, not starting him, but he's a I think top 8 or something, maybe higher than that, top 6 fantasy quarterback right now. I'd also look to move CEH. He has back-to-back 20-plus point weeks, and I just don't see that being very consistent. Maybe go try and get a running back that's got a higher ceiling. Deandre Swift's on back-to-back, he just had a bad week. Maybe you can claw that owner away from him. I would definitely look to improve to a quarterback with a rushing upside, though, at this point.
Yep. All right, so Baby Santa, welcome, my friend. Is Jonathan Taylor someone you are trying to trade for or trade away right now?
Trade for in all formats. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's just their best. He's their best runner. I think Nyheim Hines, is this his last year of this contract?
No, I think didn't he resign?
Did he? I thought it was his last. I thought this year was his last year, unless he
even if he's still on the team.
Right, but I think if he's gone, Taylor's PPR value goes like through.
Yeah, he resigned, so he's. They have a potential out after 2022, but the dead cap is still over $3 million. So he signed through 2024.
Okay,
wow.
So Nyheim Hines is there for a while. I'm still sticking with Jonathan Taylor. He's got plenty of PPR value on, first, second, and third down. And the only time I guess his value, plummets is when the Colts are down 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and he probably doesn't see many points at that point because Nyheim Hines is always on the field if the Colts are down. So, yeah, definitely a guy I'm trading for. Not trading away at all.
Yeah, definitely. Right. And that offensive line is just going to get more healthy.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. All right. Little boy says, should I trade Mark Andrews for Deandre Swift? Current RBs are Saquon and Najee.
Oh my gosh, yes! If you can get that,
holy crap! If you can get Deandre,
I want to be in that league.
Yeah, if you can trade a tight end, maybe not any tight end, but if you can trade a tight end,
in theory, it's probably tight end premium if you're trading Mark Andrews.
Even then,
I would do it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. All right, Andrews. If Chris Carson doesn't play, I'm going to look to trade away Collins. What kind of wide receiver should I target? I mean, Collins isn't going to get you an insane return, so I would look at somebody who's maybe under the radar, maybe hurt,
like Van Jefferson.
Yeah, I mean, go for a young guy.
Terrence Marshall Jr. Those would be some guys maybe I'd poke at, see, especially in Dynasty. Redraft, I don't, they're probably not much value there. But in Dynasty, those are a couple of guys that I've been looking to maybe get really cheap, like second round picks or whatnot, because I just think they've got the potential. I mean, Van Jefferson's is more involved right now than Robert Woods. So we talked about it last Sunday, and we saw it again this past week.
Yeah, from a redraft perspective, I would say go looking at a 1-3, 0-4 team that needs a guy to play this week. Right. In a league that I run, I had a guy trade Derek Carr for Alex Collins, and I think it's a bad trade, but he needs a flex play sort of thing. If you could look at maybe Michael Thomas, I don't know if that's going to be possible. I don't know if that would be enough, but that's a guy that you could at least like throw that offer out and see if he wants to, make that move sort of thing. Cause I think that's like, I think Collins is going to be a 1 week guy pretty much regardless, unless there's another injury down the road or this lingers for Carson. So yeah, if you could get a guy like Michael Thomas, I don't know. It would go looking at a 1-3 or 0-4 team and see what they have to offer. That's what I'd say.
All right, there you go. Sideline Star, welcome back. Is now the time to pick up Rashad Bateman? I mean, if you have the space on your roster, for sure, might as well see what happens, right?
Yeah, he should have maybe already been picked up.
Well, but if this is, truly a redraft and it's probably 10 or 12
and the benches
teams,
are low.
I mean, the benches probably aren't super strong. So it's not like you couldn't he couldn't be sitting out there for another week or two because they're going to ease him back in. And he's a rookie. I mean, like all those reasons to be concerned that maybe it won't be a huge productive, first couple weeks.
Depends on your IR situation. If you have 2, I'd grab him, fire him in there. If you have 1, I get it. Yeah, let him sit.
And Marco is asking about the Seattle running back situation. So we talked earlier in the show about, Alex Collins kind of being the guy, and the others might get sprinkled in some, but they just don't have the same value. So if you're looking for somebody to play in Chris Carson's spot and you don't have a lot of options, Alex Collins should be the guy that you target to put in your lineup this week. Anything you guys want to add to that?
No. Nope.
Yeah, if you can look elsewhere, look elsewhere. I mean, if you're incredibly hurting for some crazy huge ceiling play, maybe throw in DJ Dallas and hope and pray that he catches 2 touchdowns or something silly. But
right,
you're living pretty dangerously if you're doing that.
All right, so Dev over on YouTube, should I trade Tyler Lockett for DJ Moore?
We had this 2 weeks ago, didn't we? The same question, I think.
I think very similar. Yeah, I feel like this question's been asked.
Did we say Lockett 2 weeks ago?
I think we said you can't go wrong with either one.
Right.
They're very. I think we literally said they're same tier, same type of guy. But
I would go DJ Moore for youth. Yeah, for youth. But they're both very, very helpful.
Right this second, I would do that for DJ Moore. If you can get DJ Moore for Lockett, I probably would pull the trigger there.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Daysful says, what defense should I get off waivers? My options are Packers, Cardinals, Raiders. All right, so Packers have Raiders. Bengals, Cardinals have 49ers, and the Raiders have the Bears. The Bears.
Raiders.
I'm going the Raiders for sure.
Yeah,
they've got great pass rushers, and that is a horrible offensive line.
I'm actually in a very similar spot this week, and I wish the Raiders were available. So
there you go. So good luck, Daysful. Hopefully that helps you. Baby Santa, got another good question. Is Jeff Wilson worth stashing if you have an open IR spot? Or are 49ers RBs too unpredictable at this point? Yes and no. I mean, I think Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell are the guys they want to lean on until Mostert comes back, if he's healthy this year at all. But, I wouldn't be stashing Jeff Wilson. I would be looking for Elijah Mitchell or Trey Sermon. Like, those are the two I think they want to play. Bryce, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you have the IR spot and there's nobody else, why not? But I agree. Sermon got a hefty workload, 20 carries, I think 89 yards. So he didn't have like a great production output fantasy wise, but that's still a solid yards per carry average. And obviously they trust him. He was way more involved when it came to running the ball than Juszczyk this week, but Juszczyk seemed to come in and passing down. So it's like, I'm kind of worried if maybe they don't trust Trey Sermon's blocking, or if he hasn't developed much of a route tree out of the backfield yet. So I'm not sure kind of what that is. I'm staying away from the 49ers backfield this week, especially if Elijah Mitchell is healthy. If not, I have no problem starting Trey Sermon in my lineup just based on the amount of volume that I think he gets with Trey Lance starting this week.
Yeah, I think both those things could be true of Trey Sermon, Bryce. So with Jeff Wilson, if you have an open IR spot, you could throw him in there because you can drop him at any time if you need the spot. But there's going to be probably a fair amount of time between right now and when Jeff Wilson comes back. So theoretically, Elijah Moore could come back and be a stud, and then, it's kind of worthless. But again, you can drop Jeff Wilson for nothing at any time regardless. So if you have an open spot, absolutely. But it might lead to nothing, but it's free anyways. So
there you go. All right. So Ray Gamer, welcome, my friend. Start 2. DK Metcalf versus Rams. Ramsey covering him. Keenan Allen versus Browns. Corey Davis versus Falcons, or T. Higgins versus Packers. No Jair Alexander. Standard scoring. Bryce.
So we've kind of talked to, Rick's pointed this out to me. So I'll give him the credit. But on Sunday morning, Ramsey is not shadowing receivers anymore. He's kind of playing – the defense is putting him in a position to make plays based on the formation and things like that. So he is not shadowing Metcalf that whole game. We're going to see him on Metcalf sometimes. He drops into zone. We're going to see him on Lockett sometimes. So Metcalf is a must start, I think, here. With standard scoring, I want to say it's between – I think – I don't know why, but I just don't – I don't have a good feeling about Keenan Allen this week when it comes to standard. The Browns defense is the real deal. I almost like Corey Davis here versus the Falcons. I can see him getting a lot of yards and having a similar touchdown upside to T. Higgins and Keenan Allen here. So I think I'm going to lean Corey Davis and Metcalf here. But T. Higgins is probably my third choice, and it's really close. Cody?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. That's 100% true. There's very rarely any corners in the league anymore that are, shut down. I'm going to take away your number one receiver corners. It's not the way the defenses run anymore. And to be honest, it's not the way offenses run anymore. Some defensive players just like being on a side. They just, for whatever reason, they like to be on a side. Right. And then, offenses can move wide receivers everywhere, all over the field, slot outside, whatever. So, yeah, that's a definite factor. And I am absolutely never sitting DK Metcalf. In that same token, I'm never sitting Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's underrated, one of the best wide receivers in the game. So I just couldn't. I would be way too upset with myself if I sat Keenan Allen. He had 100 yards and a touchdown. Which is essentially, not, I wouldn't say that's his ceiling or potentially floor, but that's Corey Davis's ceiling. So I do like Corey Davis too, and that's a great matchup. And especially in a standard format, then it's a ton closer. But
yeah, in PPR, Keenan Allen for sure.
No question, yeah. But I just can't justify sitting Keenan Allen ever. I can't.
I think I don't like him because last year in week 14, he yelled in the camera, "Don't sit me." And I didn't, and he put up 1 point. So he has been a guy that I don't like just because of that. It lost me a fantasy playoff game. Do you remember that? He did it last year.
I do remember that.
And then he got hurt too, didn't he? For
he was already apparently on limited snaps, but he literally said, "Don't sit me," into the camera, and then put up 1 or 2 points. It was horrible.
And that was in either championship or semis week or something like that too, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a playoff game for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So David wants to know, trading Ayuk for Jacoby Myers, is that a good trade in a full PPR?
I will take Jacoby Myers all day, personally, especially in redraft. And I'm probably taking it in Dynasty as well at this point. I just trust his floor. You're more than likely these guys are your flex options. And I like my flex options to have great floors. And it seems like Jacoby Myers' floor is 12 points every week. So I would do that.
Yeah, I'd put them on a similar tier. And are you for Myers? You might be able to get a little more out of the guy than Myers, because he's just habitually as well underrated and kind of just overlooked a little bit because former quarterback, whatever, Patriots wide receiver, whatever narrative you want to fit in there. Jacoby Myers has been very, very habitually underrated so far in his career.
Yeah.
So you might be able to get a little more than Myers for Ayuk, but I mean, would I make that trade? Yeah, it depends on the rest of my team and everything like that, but you might be able to get a little more is what I would think about doing.
Yep. All right, Daysful, best flex option, Michael Carter, Darnell Mooney, Emmanuel Sanders. Probably Carter's the safest right now, which sounds weird. Emmanuel Sanders, it's going to be an up and down ride with him in that offense. And Darnell Mooney with a Justin Fields still developing. I mean, I guess Zach Wilson is still too. I'd lean Carter. What do you think, Cody?
I'm going with Manny Sanders on that one. In a shootout game, they're going to have to put up points. He's been on the field a ton. His snap share is very high. He has been getting targets. He has been getting catches. He has been getting touchdowns. So I'm going with what I know. And of these three, what I know is Emmanuel Sanders is the best option, especially in that matchup. So that's what I'm going with. Darnell Mooney is a very high ceiling play. And he's playing a ton as well. And he's technically the wide receiver one as far as snap share is concerned on that team over Allen Robinson. Obviously, he's not the wide receiver one. I get that, but opportunity is there. But I'm going with Emmanuel Sanders personally.
Okay.
Probably agreeing with you, Brad. Yeah, I'm going to go with Michael Carter as more of a safe floor. And I think I almost like Darnell Mooney for saying it looks like Justin Fields is like just looking his way a ton. He's a guy that I liked last year. And I thought I'd take him like that, like we talked about earlier, that 3 years to kind of really become his own. But I would almost feel like he'd be my number 2 choice here. I do like Emmanuel Sanders a lot. I've liked him his entire career. And if that game is a shootout, he could very well be the best play. But I think for floor, I'm definitely going Michael Carter. And the 2 ceilings for Darnell and Emmanuel are just too risky. So I'm going to still stick with Carter as a more safe play there.
Okay, there you go. Pay. Welcome. Antonio Gibson, Cordarrelle Patterson, or Chris Carson at RB2 with Cook as his RB1. I think it's got to be Gibson, right? Even though Cordarrelle's been crazy scoring.
Yeah. I have Gibson as my RB1 in this example here. Dalvin Cook didn't practice today. He's certainly not fully healthy. Absolutely not. That's another guy that could probably use a week off, actually. Gibson for sure. And then go ahead and start Dalvin Cook. It doesn't look like Carson's playing. So, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
Really, Bryce?
Yep. Gibson pretty easily there for me.
And thank you, Daceville. We appreciate the feedback. Always glad you're here. Don't forget, like, subscribe, do all the things. Hit the notification icon so you know when we go live. Last question, Ray Gamer. Would you start Hunt at flex since you said start DK and Allen, which I will probably do? Would you play Corey Davis versus Atlanta, Higgins versus Packers, or Hunt versus Chargers, or stick with Hunt at flex, CH at RB2? Would you start Hunt at flex? Well, Hunt's always a good play because he's going to get you PPR.
This is standard, though. Is this the same guy from the standard?
Oh, yeah, this is standard, isn't it?
So then I'd probably go Corey Davis, like we talked about, Bryce.
Yeah.
That's probably who I go with.
Yeah, I mean, you almost have to hope that Hunt gets like a receiving touchdown for him to be good in standard. I mean, I knew he gets rushes too, but when they get to the inside the 5, it seems like Nick Chubb is the guy they usually go to. I think Corey Davis here is a safer play. Hunt is that guy that kind of has like a lot of boomer bust weeks. And I just feel like this week might be one of those bust weeks. So I'm going to go with Corey Davis here.
Yeah, Nick Chubb's got a little bit of due factor as well. He's due to bust off a 40-yard touchdown, I think. So
yeah,
obviously that doesn't play into this, but yeah, I think Corey Davis would be the guy there. What do you think on that, Brad?
I would still lean Hunt just because I want the safe play. As much as I love Corey Davis in that New York offense, that New York offense terrifies me. And though Atlanta is not good, they are in they are in London. That changes the dynamic. Atlanta's been there plenty of times. Matt Ryan knows how to get the guys ready and do things there. But it's just a different dynamic. So I would lean safer and go Hunt against the Chargers. But I don't blame you if you did Davis versus Atlanta. I definitely would be more concerned about Higgins versus the Packers coming off injury, things like that. Like he would be one I'd want to see how things go for him and what they're, and as they ease him back in. All right, Baby Santa, with DJ Shark out, do you see enough of those targets going to Dan Arnold in order to make him fantasy relevant? This is only week 2 with a new team and a new scheme. I would say, yeah, maybe, but probably you're thinking more Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, right?
Yeah, Dan Arnold was kind of involved in that for just even his first game. But I think Sharks targets, majority of them go to Shenault. Some of them may get sprinkled over to Marvin Jones Jr., but Shenault definitely benefits the biggest out of DJ Shark's absence.
Yeah, I like Dan Arnold. I really like him as a player, absolutely, and I think he's going to be great in that offense eventually. I would like to see a little more of a sample size, and yeah, I think that those actual targets will be going to Shenault and Jones before they go to Dan Arnold, but they do seem to want to throw to the tight end in that offense a fair amount. Look at O'Shaughnessy. James O'Shaughnessy was getting targeted a fair amount before he got hurt, as he always does. And Dan Arnold, I think he would be, but I just would want to see more of a sample size personally.
Yeah. Are you guys playing CH for the Bills over all the wide receivers? So that was part of Ray's other thing. Yeah, I would definitely start CH over the receivers.
Yeah, standard. The Bill, any Bills or Chiefs player have so much touchdown upside. It's
could be a shootout.
Yep. Yeah. Plus he catches balls. It's not like he's going off the field for those receiving yards too, and just obviously just a standard. But he's not going off the field pretty much
Absolutely. Ever. If CMC plays today, do you see it taking a big effect on DJ Moore? No, he's still
see it helping DJ Moore.
Right.
Yeah,
Bryce?
I mean,
it helps the play action, all that.
Yeah, no absolutely. Problem. DJ Moore is. I don't really think it affects him too much overall, but if anything, it helps. I agree.
Look at what he's already done with Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
So
right.
The sample is there that he's going to be startable. He's a wide receiver 2 minimum, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Thanks, Ray. We appreciate you guys hanging around. That's it. Show's over for the week. Good luck tomorrow night. Don't forget, Sunday morning, bright and early, Bryce, Rick, and the team are going to be doing Boomer Bust Live, as always, here on YouTube or Twitter. If you follow Road to Heat Fantasy on Twitter or any of us, you'll see it. You'll see it over there. We thank you guys, as always, for hanging out. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the notification icon. If you watch us after the fact, comment. YouTube appreciates it. We appreciate it. We love y'all, and we'll talk to you later.